So does that justify everything that you do?
Excuse me, let me tell you something. What do you think they were doing it for? Because they were trying to save us from poverty? No, they did it because they needed us. It's honor and family and loyalty. And some of us wanted a piece of the action. Now, we weren't educated like the Americans, but we had the balls to take what we wanted.
Welcome. Here with some very special guests on our very first episode of the XFL, brought to you by Driving to the Top Productions. I'm going to bring in my first co-host. How we doing today, man?
Hey, we're doing, Evan, ready to do this. I just got to read stats, read how they scored and stuff. Ready to talk about it.
Absolutely. So it's great to have you on. And here's our other guest, very special guest of ours. How we doing, bud?
What's going on? Sick intro, by the way. That beat just had me banging. Watching them flashbacks from 2001 and 2020 XFL.
Absolutely. I had to let them know that the vibes are still the same. But guys, before we get started, for those who don't know or are new to this show, our channel just because of
Shit. Evan, you're breaking up, buddy.
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
How about now?
A little.
Any better?
That's
Yeah.
better.
Yes.
All right.
there.
So,
You're going sideways, Mike, buddy.
yes. Sorry for the technical difficulties with the new mic. But yeah, Adam and Marcus, I definitely want to give you guys the opportunity to introduce yourselves, tell them your other content, and where guys can find you.
Who goes first?
Go ahead, Mark.
Of course, you can find me on Twitter at MarcusElite337. I'm also part of the World Elite Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at World Elite Pod. We're also part of Driving to the Top Productions, being the pod of your weekly unfiltered wrestling and entertainment. We're sponsored by 80s Tees, and we got a brand new sponsor we're going to reveal on our live stream this Thursday when we talk our predictions for AEW Revolution, some stuff that happened throughout the week we'll take topics of, and of course we can't forget about that fight we had over the weekend with Fury and Jake Paul that I thought that was like in 2 months. I didn't realize it was this past weekend, and it must have been in the future, like probably in Japan or something, because like it was in the morning, noonish time when they were going on. And when I found out the results, it was what, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in our time when we found out the results?
Yeah, absolutely. It did come fast. I was with you on that
everyone.
one, thinking that it was
I saw Christian Ronaldo and Mike Tyson were hanging out together.
Oh,
I did see that. I did see that tweet.
I would love to see that on Mike Tyson's podcast. I feel like that would be awesome.
They were all smiles and happy and talking. Dylan popping in real quick. Dylan, if you want to join us tonight, you can join us. It is a Driving to the Top production roundtable with Dylan. If you want to join us,
Yeah, Dylan, come on. Don't hide.
since
We know
you
where you
are since you are a, what'd you say his team was, Marcus?
His what?
What was his team in this?
Oh, the
Rough,
DC
not rough.
Defenders.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I can't wait to hear about your show on Thursday, Mark. It's going to be entertaining. What time are you guys kicking that off?
We usually kick off around like, depends, about 6:45, 7 p.m. Central Time.
So that would be 7:40, 8:45 our time.
Yeah, just about.
Sweet. I am Sports Talking It. Obviously, I do a football show. I do a baseball show. I do a little bit of work on the Talking by the Lake Guardian Talk coming up next Tuesday. Evan, I think you're joining us for that. I'm going to hear a little bit about the upcoming season. Are you not? If you
I'm
can,
gonna definitely try if I can, depending on the schedule and everything.
that will be at 9 o'clock. Some good guests coming on. The corner booth has some Boston talk tomorrow night. Should be a good little tune up. I could not get Dylan to come on that show either. Anyway, that's all. Oh yeah, so we got some Mahler talk coming up too.
Boo, we're here for
Guest on
XFL.
Thursday as well.
Boo. So yeah, now that everybody knows that we're here for the XFL and to talk about our shows and everything, I was going to go ahead and get it started off with our very first game, which is the DC Defenders and the Vegas Vipers.
No, it wasn't. It was the Battlehawks on Thursday night, Ev.
Thursday was the Sea
Yeah,
Dragons
that's right.
and the
That's right.
Battlehawks.
Thursday night game. I totally forgot about that because I
Right?
missed.
We got to think NFL on this. Like, we got to think NFL, like big things.
I
Seattle
still
blew
don't
it.
think this makes sense to play on a Thursday and have one game Saturday and two games.
I wish they just keep it
On
two
Sunday.
Saturday, two Sunday instead of like
Right.
what's next? What's next? They're gonna do like a Monday night game next.
I mean,
8 teams. It's difficult, is it not?
yeah, it is difficult. I understand what they're trying to do, but don't you think it's kind of early? Isn't this their first season back since the delay with the whole McMahon thing and their last go around before COVID? So, to me, I agree with Marcus. I think that this game should definitely be a two Sunday, two Saturday game. But I'm not going to lie to the fans today, man. I totally forgot about this game. But I must admit that I must admit I was very, very happy to see the end of it where AJ McCarron is talking to the reporter about how close this team was. Apparently, they had come back from a deficit. I don't really know how
It
much
was a
the
12
deficit
point
was.
deficit late in the fourth.
It was a what?
12-point deficit late in the fourth.
Everybody wants to be the comeback kid now. But AJ McCarron, just from the stats alone, it looked like he had a good game. He was 22 for 36 with 184 yards, one touchdown. He ran the ball as well for 41 yards off of 5 attempts and one touchdown.
I was really impressed with AJ McCarron. He really threw the ball around 8 different receivers. So I thought that was pretty impressive.
The Sea Dragons started off hot, taking a 12-0 lead on Ben DiNucci's 54-yard touchdown pass to Shakur Pearson and a 3-point conversion to Josh Gordon, which I'm not getting used to this 3-point conception they can do.
Is that from the 10, I believe, Marcus?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it is.
And then if they can run it from the 1 for 1 point or from the 3 for 2 points or from the 5?
5 from the 5. Basically, there's just a kicker to kick long field goal drives or for punts and kickoff. But the kickoff position's weird too, where they all lined up where the ball could be spotted. The kicker's out by himself in the back corner kicking it, and as soon as the receiver catches the ball, then they can go after the ball and form tackle and whatnot.
So before we continue, I actually want to ask you guys, what do you think about the way they're handling kickoffs and extra points?
It's strange, but it's interesting.
Definitely some adjusting to do as far as watching it. Just like I know we're not on NFL talk today, but I heard they were going to put a possible review of late hits on quarterbacks for next year. Anyone hear that yet?
No, I didn't. But I actually like the after touchdown 1, 2, or 3. I think it allows games to get close or leads to be drawn out real fast. The only thing I don't really like as far as that is the kickoff. Because if you still want it to be exciting and you're causing major penalties if the ball doesn't land inside the 15-yard line or if it goes into the back of the end zone, you get the ball plus 5 yards from where the kickoff took place. So essentially, I'm getting the ball at what, the 30, the 25 of my opposing team's side of the field. I don't really like that. I feel like if you guys want these guys to have an opportunity, at least change the blockers. Give the blockers. I understand why you have them close, but maybe move them up a little bit just so that you can have a chance to make somebody miss, find an open lane or something like that. But yeah. So there's that. And then my next question, or last question before we transition, unless somebody else has anything to say, was how do you guys feel about the one-time challenge anything rule that they have in the XFL?
I don't know. I mean, they can just challenge. When I mean challenge anything, they can just challenge if the ball went out of bounds. Is what you mean by challenge anything?
No, when I say challenge anything, do you remember the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles that just passed, and how they
Yes.
called a pass interference to essentially in the game? I disagree with that call. If I were the Eagles in the XFL, if this was an
You
XFL
can
Super Bowl,
challenge
I
that.
could
You can
challenge
challenge.
that call. If they didn't call it, I can challenge it. If there was a late hit, I can challenge it. If there was holding and it was missed and it was a big first down late in the game, fourth down, I can challenge it. So
Well, I
essentially
don't.
anything you want to challenge.
And I don't think you can do that in the NFL or in college. Challenge for, I mean, they challenge for like targeting and stuff, but usually you see them challenge if they're shy of the first down mark, or if their knee was down before they scored, or if they're trying to rule a fumble. I'm used to them kind of challenges. I haven't really
Absolutely.
seen a challenge where on a pass interference call. This is kind of new to me. Unless they do that in the NFL, I just don't realize it.
No, they don't do that in the NFL, and that's why I'm bringing it up because there are so many situations or opportunities that we feel like as fans of the NFL, there should be we should be able to challenge that because those are major things that happen in a game. But with the XFL, although you only get one challenge, whether you get it right or wrong, you are
You're done for the night. You can't challenge for a second half. You can't
no,
challenge again
not at
until the next
all.
game. Wow.
No, not at all. But
Well,
you do get to challenge absolutely anything.
if you challenge, like let's say they're trying to challenge for a holding call, it doesn't take rocket scientists. You got to hold in. You don't go out or hold from behind. Now that's a holding call.
Right. But it might be something that's missed because the way that they've been explaining it as far as their referees go, that referees are not necessarily looking at all the referees are looking at the play. They say the same thing as the NFL. They're looking for specific things, but they're looking for specific areas. You can see how replay booth works because they have it on screen. So you can see everything how those calls work. Why they
He broke up really bad, huh, Mark?
Yeah, I might have to put the mic up a little bit. I saw the mic drop down, so I couldn't even hear him. I heard the first half of what he said.
Me? I'm breaking up again?
Now I
Yeah.
can hear you. Like
Now, now I can hear you.
your mic like tilted, and then we couldn't even hear the rest of what you said.
Oh yeah. So it so what they do is if you review a call, they actually show you what the replay booth is looking at or the command center is looking at. So you have the ability to really challenge anything. And then as a fan, I get to see what the replay official or the command center official, whatever you want to call it, what they're calling and what it looks like.
I've seen something like that. I don't know if it was in the USFL or it was the XFL in 2020 when they challenged something like that. They actually showed the booth and they were explaining the rules while they were figuring out the problem. It might have been the XFL 3 years ago. I don't know if the USFL is that clever to do something like that because it's already hard enough to try and get all 8 of their teams to play in their own cities instead of playing in just one last year. And now they're splitting in 4 cities this year, which I don't see the USFL lasting long if they keep doing this.
Absolutely. Any thoughts, Adam?
I think it's think it's a good move by the USFL, not because they're, you know, they're kind of still worried about COVID a little bit, and they're just trying to keep everyone together, and that way there's no chance of a major outbreak. That's why they did it last year in one place was for the COVID breakouts. And if they did, they could hide all 8 teams and keep them all together in an enclosed area. That's why they did that. It wasn't because they wanted to keep everyone away from their home cities. They just did it for in case of COVID breakout.
It just seems strange that I felt like it was rigged. Like Birmingham just won the whole thing because they were the only team to play all their games at home. So they got to have that crowd advantage. They got to have sellout games because it was in their own city. And I don't believe a state like Alabama, all the states in the South were not scared of COVID at all. I can believe if all the games were played in Canton, Ohio, or up north, and they were very.
But that was their thought process, Marcus. That was their thought process was in case there was a breakout.
Oh yeah, because it was already a crazy year watching that 2020 season, and it was crazy how a lot of the states up north couldn't have fans at all, or didn't want to have a season, wait until the spring, where the SEC were like, "Screw you guys, we're going to do our own thing," and they had fans, but not a full capacity. They had a 25% capacity. That's how LSU was, because I was lucky to attend 2 of those 5 home games they had in that ridiculous season after winning a national championship. I don't want to talk about anymore.
I feel you there. So, I absolutely agree with both of you. I do think it's weird. I understand why that they, had it only takes one guy to sneeze and have COVID, and then everybody on every team now has COVID. Do you miss an entire week? Do you miss an entire 2 weeks? Or do you keep each team in the same area, or 2 teams in separate areas all around the city just in case? But I like the idea that the XFL has where these guys are playing at their home stadiums, even though Vegas is playing at an old rodeo bin.
It's an old baseball stadium. Oh, it was horrible. I know I have a lot to say when we get to that game, and I know that's all Dylan mentioned. I said, hey, I need some tips on that Defenders game because I know you watched the whole thing, and he just straight up said it was complete trash. I mean, my team won, just the atmosphere was complete garbage. That's all.
Absolutely.
He said.
Do you want to go to that game next? Is that the Saturday game?
That was a Saturday game. That was the only Saturday game, I believe. And it was pouring raining in Vegas. And at first, when I heard they got a team, I remember they were in Tampa Bay. They were the Tampa Bay Vipers, and then they switched to Vegas. And the Guardians were in New York, and they switched to Orlando. And I'm thinking, they swapped their colors. Vegas had the Guardians colors, that neon green and silver. They gave it to Orlando, and Orlando gave them the black and red.
Right. Absolutely. I loved the New York Guardians logo and jerseys from last year, as you can see why they're in the intro video.
Yeah, that gargoyle logo looks
right.
Cool.
Absolutely. But as far as watching that game, it seemed like the weather played in a lot to it. Neither quarterback could really take over as far as it went for that game. As you can see down here, we're trying to figure out how this is going. This is our very first episode, but you can see here, Vegas scored early. I believe that was a offensive turnover where their defense scored in the first quarter. But other than that,
it was a Tamu fumble. It was a Tamu fumble, I believe, and then the guy caught it and just took it into the end zone from the 1 yard. And then they failed on the 2-point conversion, so that made it 6-0. Then nothing scored in the second quarter, and then obviously went 3-15 to complete shutout.
The teams combined for 4 fumbles and 2 missed field goals and 320 rushing yards.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I really wanted to talk about 2 quarterbacks in this game. The first quarterback I wanted to talk about was DeAndre King, former Houston quarterback and University of Miami quarterback, who kind of phased out in the league due to the fear of his size. Week 1, he did the same thing in week 2. Literally came in the second half. They ran a bulldog style option quick pass RPO system. Did not throw the ball the rest of the game. But if you look at it, you have Smith, Armstead, and DeAndre King all rushing for 40 yards or more. And DeAndre King having that touchdown. And the reason I'm bringing this up is so that you can also look at the Vegas Vipers, where Brett Hundley came in early in the second quarter. Although they didn't do much, he was 11 and 18 for almost 100 yards. He was sacked twice. But the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm seeing a narrative where the mobile quarterback for the XFL is really going to be the wave, and it's going to be the wave fast. So I wanted to ask you guys how you felt about that.
It's very indescribable, I can say.
Well, what do you mean by it being indescribable?
I mean, just it was already hard to watch the game alone. I mean, I missed the first half, and I was bored. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check the second half out, and then I look, I just see it storming. There was probably under 1,000 people in attendance. Like I thought I was watching like a high school or a rec ball game or something, and it's not even a baseball game going on; it's football, and it was just. There, I mean, I get it was wet conditions, but man, you think they would know how to play in the rain, and it's just a slip fest. Like every time they would carry the ball, they would slip and fumble the ball, or they just can't hold their balance, or if they slide, like it's a slip and slide basically that field. And I don't know why they had to go play at this antique of a ball stadium. Why didn't you just go to Sam Boyd? Like, why are they not using that stadium anymore? I mean, yeah, UNLV move. You can't sell out Allegiant Stadium, of course. Yeah, you're smart not moving the Vipers to Allegiant Stadium, but why don't they just play at Sam Boyd? Like, is it permanently closed? They're playing at this ballpark. What is it? Crampson Field or something like that?
Yeah, it is.
Cashman Field. Cashman Field. That's what it says here. And the rain just ruined it all. Like, I'm pretty sure it could have been a good game, but it was a battle of two unbeaten teams. One of them was trying to no, Vegas was trying. No, they were the only unbeaten team. DC is also undefeated. I'm sorry. Yeah, DC was looking to get their second win, which they did. Vegas was trying to get their first win. No, I'm thinking wrong game. It was San Antonio and Orlando. That was the battle of winless, trying to get that first win.
Absolutely, and that game was a blowout. But I absolutely agree with your take. My biggest takeaway from the first 2 weeks, and especially this game, is that whatever offense can get it clicking first is usually going to be the offense to win the game. It kind of reminded me of high school ball, where if you don't have an elite quarterback, an elite running back, or a 4-star receiver or something like that, it's 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and you hope you get downfield, where the defense is able to get an immaculate pass rush. They're able to shut down guys in the passing game, where to the point where it's kind of like growing up as a kid. Your defense is great and your offense sucks, and then by the time you get to college, nobody can stop the defense because all the great the offense, because all the great defensive players have been moved to the other side of the ball. So that's my take on it. Adam, did you have anything for this one?
I don't understand either why they're playing on this shitty field. You figure The Rock and they would have came up with money to pay for rent and Allegiance Field Stadium just to try and get a crowd in there.
I can see Sam Boyd Stadium where UNLV used to play, but no, they're not even. That stadium must be permanently closed if they couldn't even use that. I mean, that's what the Vegas team they had when they started 20 years ago. What was it? The Outlaws? They were playing in that stadium when they had the XFL. I don't know why they couldn't even just go over there. Plus, I have a good question for you guys. I know so far every team except one has had a home game so far. And as of right now, I think we can agree right now the Defenders might have the best home field advantage crowd because they actually filled their stadium up. I mean, Dylan and I talked about that where they took away their beer snake and then they started throwing lemons on the field in their first game. Don't know why they act like that, but he said it's because the city of DC has nothing to look forward to because their team, the Commanders, play in Maryland, not in District of Columbia like this team. So that's basically the only football team you got in your nation's capital. But what I'm getting to is, DC can sell out a game. The Houston Roughnecks, they were given the second largest attendance for a home game. Like they filled up last week in their opener against the Guardians, and then they opened up pretty big this week against the Renegades. And I'm pretty sure they're going to have a big crowd in their next game against the Brahmas. But there's one more team left that hasn't had a home game yet. And when they had their inaugural season, St. Louis Battlehawks, they're playing in the Dome. They're
playing in the Edwards Jones. They're playing in the Edwards Jones.
Yeah, now it's called the Dome of America Center now. Its capacity is 65,000. They had over 40,000 people for home games because they had no more football. The Rams took off back to L.A. So when the Battlehawks start playing at home, you think they're going to have that higher capacity over the Defenders? Or you think D.C. is going to be the king of hosting home games?
That is all over the Twitter feed right now for the Battlehawks called Fill the Dome. And I think they're even going to sell the higher seats for cheaper, just the packet. So
actually, that is true. That is all true. They talked about it on Sunday night as a XFL thing for the fans to help promote Fill the Dome. So the fact that they are at this point about to sell out that stadium is quite amazing, actually.
That might be the two most passionate. Well, those three, the Defenders, the Roughnecks, and the Battlehawks, to me, might be the most passionate fans.
Well, weren't the Battlehawks the most sold merchandise whenever they were here in first time?
Well, I will say about them, I'm not their biggest fans. I do like them. Like, if I can have a backup team, I'd probably say them. They're my favorite helmets. I love their helmets, and I love their colors, the royal blue with the white.
Yeah, those helmets are definitely fire. I was actually going to ask you guys, who did you feel like had the best jerseys? For me this week, I was definitely going to say the Defenders.
Well, the Roughnecks had the best uniforms, one of the best uniforms when they first started, and then they had to change their logo a bit. They had to make the Derrick a little smaller because they got in trouble with a rival of theirs that are no longer called the Oilers. They're called the Titans because they own the naming rights to the Oilers franchise. So they had to shorten the Derrick up. And I don't like their helmets. They make it look like the Texas flag where it's navy on one side and white and red on the other. I just don't like that. No disrespect to Texas, but I liked how their uniforms looked at the start, the silver helmets with the red face mask and the tall Derrick, and then the uniforms they had at first were awesome. These they have, I just don't like the helmets. For the they kind of reminded me of the AAF. The Alliance of American Football, which, by the way, me and Dylan shared a team together. We were the Memphis Express fans. Loved their logo and their color scheme, but they sucked. They before they went bankrupt, they only won one game. I think it was after 6 weeks they got bankrupt. So they were 1-5 or 1-6 before they shut that dumpster fire down. But yeah, that was our team, the Memphis Express. I was gonna be a San Antonio Commanders fan, but I just didn't like their colors. I didn't like the purple and red together. It just didn't go well for football.
Absolutely. So, weird thing, I was going to try and save this for the end of the show, but my spirit is telling me to talk about it. So I saw a video this morning about the XFL and how players are getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
From the start of training camp to the end of the season, or playoffs if you make it, you get paid $60,000.
Okay.
Then you get a insurance benefit of $20,000. You also get 2 meals a day paid for by the league and housing for the entire season.
Wow.
I don't think that's a bad deal.
No. I'll go ahead and start this one off. Worst logo, I think, goes to San Antonio.
The Brahmas, yeah, they can scrap all of that and redo that one.
The Battlehawks, I mean, it's not a bad logo. It just, I don't know, a sword with angel wings. I don't know. But it looks awesome on the helmet. I think their helmet is more badass than the Philadelphia Eagles helmet. I'll take their helmets over the Eagles.
I can agree to that.
The Renegades, I mean, yeah, I just don't like how they renamed them the Arlington Renegades. I mean, Arlington is Dallas, but I get confused. Is that a D in the background that makes it an R, or is that an actual R that's sliced to make it look like a D and an R?
I think it's the second of the two. I totally did what on the game. I don't like their logo, but for me, for whatever reason, I know the Brahmas are to pay homage to The Rock. Come on, buddy. You can do better than that. I know you're watching because there's nobody else covering your sport. But you can do better than that.
Seattle, Sea Dragons. I mean, just the Seattle Dragons sounded a lot better. But I actually like, I don't know if it's still the same helmets. I liked what their helmets looked like the first time, where they were white, had the big old dragon on the side. It was pretty cool, but I don't even know what they look like now.
They're somewhat similar, if not the same. I don't really remember what they were the second time they came around before this season, but I do know that it is white with a dragon on the side. It's got a little bit of orange in there. I actually like it.
The Brahmas, their uniform looked like a caution sign, and the Vipers, their shit. DC's look a little too original, but I mean their logo's pretty cool. I mean that should be their. I always love the jokes with Houston because Houston finally has a football team that's good, and they're like this. They should have a actual game with the Houston Texans, and the winner will become the official team of the NFL.
I think that the Texans get blown out.
Well, now you got to throw the Gamblers in too. I mean, they want to be in this argument too. I'm like, oh, Roughnecks would beat both of y'all at the same time. Y'all could be a team in one. Like they should get a bye. The winner of the Gamblers Texans matchup should play the Roughnecks, and the winner would be the team of Houston in the NFL.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. I definitely think the Roughnecks do deserve to make it to the league, and once they do, I need the Titans to give back that old logo, the Oilers logo.
No. I wish they would. Yeah, Houston, I would love to see them for once, like do a throwback combo with the Oilers combo with the baby blue and the white helmets, and they're chanting "Love You Blue." But no, Tennessee owns that crap, and they're just gonna rub it in their face like, "Oh, we're not gonna expose it anymore." They have done it one time. Remember when the Tennessee Titans?
Houston was an expansion team.
They were.
They sold.
Okay,
they sold to Tennessee.
Kind of like the Browns when they left and went to Baltimore.
Yes. They sold to Tennessee. They went to Tennessee in '98, but they started in Memphis, and then they recreated the franchise and called them the.
They played in the Liberty Bowl, huh? First,
they played twice. Once as the Oilers, and then they take like a year off, and then in 2000 they came back as the Titans, and then in 2001 I think they moved to Nashville because they played like they played like 2 seasons in Memphis. Because I remember when they got Steve McNair, he started his career as a Titan in Memphis, and then they moved to Nashville. When I
think you're absolutely right on that one.
Because it wasn't long, it wasn't even a 5-year span before they went to their first Super Bowl.
No, and Dyson was a yard short. Right? They lost to the greatest team on turf.
Talking about was it the Rams?
The Rams, yeah. Kurt Warner.
They lost to Kurt Warner. I forgot about that.
Is that where Dyson got tackled on the one?
Yeah.
I remember picking Tennessee Titans, and they lost, and I was mad. And they're not even my team. That's how I used to be when I was a kid. If I picked a team in the Super Bowl and they lost, I'd get mad. even if I bet like $5 with a family member or something. Like I was learning how to gamble at a young age.
Don't feel bad. I still have the same feelings now as an adult when it comes to losing a bet for the Super Bowl.
Boy, see, even though I was a Saints fan when I was a kid, I was a huge Brett Favre fan growing up. I idolized him. He was the reason I started playing the game. And I was a big Packers fan. The year they lost to the Broncos in the Super Bowl, my grandpa kept picking at me. Is like, I'll bet you $5 John Elway and the Broncos are going to beat Brett Favre. I bet him $5. What happens? John Elway wins the Super Bowl. I had to go to him up front, give him an envelope with a $5 bill in it. That's the first time he made me cry.
So we are going to go to the next game, and that was Orlando versus San Antonio. So that was the Brahmas and the Guardians.
Does Paxton Lynch suck?
Well, right out the gate, whoa there, Adam. Yeah, he does. Twice in the XFL. No offense to any of the other guys, but Paxton Lynch, you ain't it, buddy.
Well, this was the game where Hines Ward's the coach for one team, and then another player, as a former Patriot, was the coach of the other team.
Anthony Bett, right?
Absolutely.
And
Anthony Bett was a tight end for the Jets too, right?
No, I thought he was I thought, well, maybe he did play for the Jets. I remember he was a Patriot. But
yeah, he was. I can't remember who it was. It was a defensive back. But another side note, as far as coaches go, Joey Porter is a linebackers coach for the Brahmas. He and Hines Ward are coaches for the Brahmas, as they are former Steelers, who I do not root for. I can't stand. The guy giggling over there roots for the Squealers over there, but we're talking about the XFL over here. So, yeah. So this game is something we highlighted and mentioned earlier in the show. I am not a fan of Orlando. I watched this full game, and the only thing I remember was in the third quarter, the Orlando head coach completely threw his team under the bus. I mean, completely threw them under the bus to a sideline reporter during the game. Wasn't a timeout, wasn't halftime. It was like during the game. They just was like, hey, we talked to the head coach, and he was trash. He just trashed everybody. But, Marcus, I see you have your hand up.
Well, a couple of things here. It's about Orlando, everything Orlando. It was they played their game at Camping World or the Citrus Bowl, whatever you want to call it. I'm thinking they were going to play their games in Orlando's soccer stadium or UCF stadium like the Apollos did for the Alliance of American Football. But no, they played at the Citrus Bowl or Camping World Stadium. The Guardians uniforms, it's giving me either some Oregon vibes or the Michigan State neon green vibe, where they got big old state across the uniforms. That's what their uniforms give me. And if I'm correct, I don't know, this is the second week in a row I saw a player from the Guardians. I think it was Eli Rogers. Like, every time he scored a touchdown, he gives you the most blank comment ever. Like, he looks like he's just lost. And she's like, what? Give me your take on what were you thinking when you knew the ball was coming to you and you scored? And he was just like, I just caught it and ran it in the end zone. You know, that's what you got to do.
Right. His comment was catching it was the hard part, and just, I mean, gave her a death.
You have two hands. That's the thing hard about using your hands. And that's the second week in a row he gave a weird comment like that. And I'm like, keep giving him the ball. One of your stupid takes.
Eli Rogers is kind of like Paxton Lynch, guys. He's played for the Steelers. He's played for the USFL. Mm-hmm. He played for Tampa Bay Bandits last year, and then this year he's in the XFL.
Okay, who did Jack Cohn play for? The quarterback for the Brahmas. I mean, he threw for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. But I know I heard that name somewhere.
You heard that name at the University of Notre Dame. He went undrafted out of the COVID year draft. So I believe that was 2022. He went undrafted. And I don't think he got picked up.
Oh, so this was after Brian Kelly left. Marcus coached him.
I think so. Yeah.
I forgot his last name, but the former OC for Notre Dame, the one that worked under Brian Kelly, he took his job before he came down here.
Yes. So I knew the name. I just didn't realize that he wasn't still in the NFL or was, trying to get a shot at the NFL through the XFL, the land of opportunity. But yeah, how did you think he played in this game?
He actually played pretty decent. I mean, their defense is I thought their offense did better than the defense. The defense kind of looked a little slacky, but the offense kind of ran through them. But he can pass the ball. They got great receivers that can read the pass, and the quarterback can read the receivers and know where to throw them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. My thoughts on it. I think that if the Brahmas can keep it up or keep this momentum and get a little bit more consistency out of the offense in late in games, I absolutely think that they will be the champs of the XFL this year.
The Houston Roughnecks are the uncrowned XFL champions of 2020 because they were 7-0 or 8-0 before the whole world shut down. So they'll probably have an asterisk. If any Houston team needs an asterisk by their championship name, it's the Houston Roughnecks, not the Houston Astros from 2017.
Didn't they cheat though?
You ain't trying.
I agree with that. I'm just just wanted to see where you're.
Everybody cheats in Major League Baseball. We just got caught and admitted it, unlike teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, I'm a Guardians fan, and we don't cheat.
Oh, yeah. What sounds better, the Orlando Guardians or the Cleveland Guardians?
The Cleveland Guardians, who are going to win the AL this year.
I mean, sometimes I still call them the Cleveland Indians, even though I'm supposed to say the Guardians because I don't want to get in trouble.
Everybody in Cleveland still calls them the Indians, and we still call Progressive Field the Jake in remembrance of Jacobs Field. So it's all right, man.
I wonder if Washington still calls their team either the Washington Redskins or even the Washington football team because they hate the Commanders' name.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it takes time. I've run into some people that don't call the Oakland that have struggled calling them the OKC Thunder for a while, but that was back in the day. I remember when that name came out, I was dying laughing with my dad. That was one of the more funnier moments. But back to this. Did either one of you see the highlight or the GIF or the Twitter moment of the coach completely destroying?
I saw it. I don't recall it though, but I saw it. I watched it, and I didn't fully understand because they weren't really like getting blown out at this point. Like it was 13-6.
Yeah, but that was the thing. They didn't score enough. They didn't score to the fourth quarter, and when they scored in the fourth quarter, it was late in the game. So they gave up 30. Yeah, they gave up 30 unanswered points.
Orlando scored in the first quarter. They scored 6.
Right, and then after that, they didn't score until the final minute of the game.
Right, but it was only 13-6 whenever he called out his team at halftime.
Yeah, but the thing was they were driving up and down the field, and then it just got way worse. My biggest question to this is if you were a guy on a football team, what would you say to your coach if he were to say on national TV that I don't know who's going to start next week. I think I should cut them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you want to be cut and go somewhere else, or actually, I don't even know if that really is a thing for the XFL.
It depends what team, though. Like if it's like Orlando or Vegas, I'd say yes. Send me to St. Louis or send me to DC or Houston.
I agree with that one, but then again, it becomes: are you going to make it?
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
That's true. You do. It's a good chance for a good opportunity. But
can't have your coach calling you out though like that. That's not even. you do that. I understand you want to try and get your team fired up and still keep a name for yourself instead of like talking about the blowout. What are we talking about? We're talking about this coach that got blown out. His statements before halftime. Like, did he feel his team was going to get blown out at this point? So he figured he would try and either say something for us to talk about besides the game.
I mean, unless she told him, "Hey, this is what they're talking about up in the press box. Say this." I mean, it just looks bad. I mean, that's
It looks
worse
bad
than
whenever you call out your team for sure.
yeah. That's kind of like when Todd Haley and Hugh Jackson were fighting, like audibly fighting, almost to the point of a fist fight in Indianapolis, the year that the Browns brought in Todd Haley as an offensive coordinator. Anyway, so any other thoughts on this game before we go to the final game?
I'm ready to talk this final game.
Well, I'm going to put up the score right here, and I'm going to let Marcus take over. So go ahead, my man.
Oh man, let's see. Houston Roughnecks, love it. I love a lot about this team. Well, I just got to get this off my chest. Okay, Brandon Silvers is doing a great job as a quarterback. He's second in pass rushing in the XFL. He's right behind the Sea Dragons quarterback in pass rushing. But look, I get just because you play for an XFL team, I appreciate you. But being an LSU Tiger, I'm never going to forget what you did to us in 2017. But I will thank you because of that loss. We got rid of Les Miles. But I still can't get over the fact that you beat us in our own stadium and made us look like a laughing stock. It took a lot to get over that loss over Troy 6 years ago. But he's doing great things now. Let's see. We got probably the oldest coach in the XFL. We got Wade Phillips, who's a fellow Houstonian as himself, played college for Houston. He was a former Super Bowl champion with the Denver Broncos. He was once a DC for the New Orleans Saints back way before my time. We got a hell of a coach. And the first play of the game, we get an interception. And I think the Roughnecks were ranked the number one defense in the XFL. We have a solid defense, and I love they just fly to the ball. They just go after. They read the quarterback. They read where he's thrown it, and they just pick. Got it. Our ball. And we got a good running game, too. So, but
How do you say his name? Max Bogey?
yes. But Max Borghi, yeah. Threw 2 touchdown passes to him. And then Cedric Bird was another good receiver they have. He threw a touchdown pass to him. But we got a decent running game too. But yeah, 23-14 win where this was the only game of Battle of the Unbeaten. So right now there's only 3 undefeated teams left in the XFL: Houston, DC, and St. Louis. 3 best teams in the league right now, in my opinion.
So I must admit that this game, to me, out of the ones that I was able to watch, was probably the most exciting game. Just the way that the Houston defense flies around and takes over. I'm a former defensive guy. I love watching defensive football. I think that's what draws me to the XFL is that defenses all over the league are taking over. They're doing pretty well. It seems to be the strong point and the focal point for the league. So, for me, that was the game of the week. Adam or Marcus, either or.
Well, I'm going to change the subject here, too. I forgot to mention this earlier. There's only one other thing I don't like about this league. I don't want to hear conversations. I don't like to hear what the quarterback and the coaches are saying. Leave your drama to yourselves, for the whole world to hear, especially the play calling. I feel like that's how you get caught cheating. You're going to hear somebody. I just can't do the talking on the mic or hearing the play calling. No, keep it to yourself. I like to hear the rambling of the crowd in the background like I'm watching the NFL. You can barely hear the quarterback call the play.
Absolutely. Going into the weekend, I thought it was pretty cool, but by the time the Houston game was over, I wasn't a fan of it. It took away from the surrounding factors that you brought up, like the crowd and the atmosphere. That's just what I'll use. And dealing with the rest, it just didn't fit well.
Mhm. Now it'll be, I think, 2 weeks, or actually 1 week, because we're now officially in week 3. But like this week, there's one Saturday night game, Sea Dragons Vipers. Sunday there's 3 games, but I think the best game week 3 is going to be the Battlehawks and the Defenders. It's Battle of Unbeatens plus that DC crowd always get, now that they can't do the beer snake no more, which I was a fan of watching. They're going to throw lemons again if things don't go their way. The Roughnecks got the San Antonio Brahmas. I think they'll go 3-0, but I can't wait till March 12th when the Battlehawks are in the dome against the Renegades to see if they could sell it out and they paint that place blue.
And that's actually next week, right?
Yeah, we're now in week 3, but their home opener is week 4 against the Renegades. They're playing DC this Sunday in DC, which that's still going to be an exciting crowd because they love their defenders.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, what did you think of that Army fatigue jersey for the Defenders?
It was pretty neato. Something different, but I liked it.
I hope that the XFL takes note to that and can do something different when it comes to their jerseys, and let that be one of their calling cards.
Well, they had week 2 was like they called it Military Appreciation Week. I think that's why they did that, because Houston did something too. Like I think they let like all military personnel get in the game for free because they kept
That's
bringing
awesome.
up, and that's another reason why they had a decent crowd. They didn't sell out. Like it's like the whole lower bowl was full, but like all the nosebleeds were like they had probably like a couple of people like up in the nosebleed section, but they keep on winning, and they could start getting close to having the same amount of crowds like St. Louis is fixing to have, and even DC.
Absolutely. So before we wrap this up, Adam, do you have any thoughts, man?
Where is DC playing in DC? Because like Marcus, you said
There's that
Marcus,
soccer
you said
stadium.
that RFK it's in Maryland, but it's really only like a half hour from DC.
They're playing in that soccer stadium. Audi Field, the home of the DC United soccer team. Their capacity is 20,000. Yeah, so they're playing in a soccer stadium, DC United, from the MLS. That's where they're playing their games at. That's the perfect size stadium for them.
Absolutely. I would think that more teams would try to do that. Now that I'm looking at it, holds what? What'd you say? 20,000 people?
Yeah, their capacity is 20,000. But
that's great.
Seattle's basically the only team that's playing in an actual NFL stadium. They're playing in the Seahawks stadium, Lumen Field. The Battlehawks are playing in a former NFL stadium. Dallas is playing in the Rangers' former baseball stadium that they trying to turn into a football stadium, but it just looks so atrocious. It's now called Choctaw Stadium. And then the Brahmas are playing in the Alamo Dome, which they've used it for football. They used it for Spurs games before they built the AT&T Center. It's like if you're in San Antonio, everything is being played in the Alamo Dome, even UTSA.
That's all they got. The Alamo Dome, right?
Yeah, I was there for the Royal Rumble finally. I've been in a historic. I could throw that in of being in stadium like the Astrodome or Texas Stadium back in the day too. Like I've been in all 3 of the original football stadiums in Texas. I mean, I've also been in AT&T Stadium about 4 times. I've been in NRG Stadium when it was called Reliance Stadium. And of course the baseball parks too. I've been in the now it's called Choctaw Stadium. I was in there when the Rangers were playing there. I've seen a baseball, and it wasn't an Astros game. I was offered a free ticket to go watch Derek Jeter and the Yankees take on the Texas Rangers for a buddy's birthday, and I went. I said, I ain't gonna turn down a free baseball game. And then I've been in the new ballpark too. I snuck in and got a video of the inside. I'll eventually go in the new ballpark for the Astros coming to town to beat them, or if WWE ever does a show there, I'll go over there permanently for like an event. But yeah, I've been in. I love torn stadiums. You know, I like to go around.
Me too, Marcus. Me too, buddy.
Like when I went to Ohio, I went to the Cincinnati Bengals Stadium. I went to the Reds Stadium, University of Cincinnati Stadium, Ohio State's. I snuck in Ohio State with my LSU gear on and posted a video. And he let me in. He says, as long as you're not wearing that blue. And I was like, yep, I'm not wearing that
That's
blue.
pretty much it. As long as you're in the team up north, the University of Michigan.
I never heard that one, Michigan. I always hear Ohio State call them the team up north, and Michigan just calls them Ohio instead of Ohio State.
Nope, it's Michigan because they're wishing they can beat us again.
Yeah, I'm not a big Ohio State guy either, but I don't hate them as much as I hate like Alabama and Texas and
What's your division, the SEC?
Texas A&M. Yeah, Texas and Oklahoma. And 2 more years, they're coming to the SEC finally, and we're going to beat the shit out of them. I can't wait until they start playing us more often. We're playing them in baseball tomorrow night. I can't wait till we beat them in baseball.
I think the entire world wants to
baseball is
see
underway.
Plus, I'm not a fan of USC. I loved when they got beat by Tulane, and I'm not even a big Tulane supporter because they used to be our biggest rivals. But I was glad for Tulane beating Caleb Williams and USC. Who else I don't like? I don't like. That's about it. I don't like UCLA either after what happened opening the 2020. What was it, the 2021 season? They beat us in the Rose Bowl in week 1. They can take that. Florida State can take that. Don't like Florida State either.
We're getting Marcus's whole download today.
Right.
If you're talking college basketball, I'm not a Duke fan because I like North Carolina, but I have to kiss Zion Williamson's ass because he plays for the Pelicans, but he's been injured again.
You're going to trade him in 2 seasons.
But no, if I had to pick 4 teams in the SEC, I hate with a passion. Of course, I'm going to say Alabama, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss. I hate Florida too, but it always sucks to be a Florida Gator. I ain't worried about beating Florida. We can always beat Florida if we play our cards right. Yeah, that's just the top 4 I hate in the SEC.
That's funny. Like the SEC is always at the top, and there's always teams to hate for a reason. Anyway, Evan, I know you got places to be, places to go.
Yeah, I do this
Let's
time.
kick the show off then. Let's finish it.
So, again, I would like to thank my 2 co-hosts, my guests from Sports Talking It, and Marcus from World Elite. Actually, man, I'm you know what? Before we leave, I gotta say, man, I like to go to wrestling events. I don't watch them a lot, just because I haven't been able to keep up with the actual wrestlers. But what you do on your show is absolutely amazing. So if you end up watching this, definitely give my man here a try. He has a little bit of everything for everybody. This Squealers fan over here that nobody roots for. He does a pretty good job with baseball. If you want to hear him lie about the Steelers, I guess you could watch him for that too. But Adam, Marcus, guys, thank you for coming on. I love the work that you guys are doing here with me at Driving to the Top Productions, brought to you by Adam.
I keep getting that name wrong. You know how many times I said straight to the top, and Dylan's like it's driving to the top. So I'm trying to get get Fast and Furious vibes if I ever mention y'all again. So like, I don't mention y'all because I don't want to say the name wrong again. Like, I'm gonna have to start mentioning part of Driving to the Top Productions, and if y'all have a catchphrase or a tagline or a motto,
Driving to the top where the road never stops.
Driving to the top where the road never stops. I like that.
That is the first time I've ever heard that.
I'm going to mention that in the live stream Thursday. I'm going to memorize that.
But, you know, I did it like that because I never want to feel like we're there and we always got more to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But
I'll have to come back next time, too. Like, that was fun talking XFL.
Yeah, we're going to try and do this every Monday.
Absolutely.
Next week, we might even have a special guest come on already. So, Marcus,
yes.
if I offer this to the whole channel. I put it as like a Driving to the Top productions kind of talk about.
See, I didn't do a week one recap or anything. This was the first.
We did not. We just threw this together like last minute, and
Well, this was fun. I'll definitely come back on again.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we're gonna play the intro one last time just so you guys can see the
badass intro. I don't care.
Yes, cool I loved it. Yes.
Thank you guys. If you're ever watching, man, check me out at EMB Studios, or you can hit me up at my Twitter name at Brogdon Evan, or my podcast Talking by the Lake, where you can join me at the Lake House for amazing Browns content, as I have some guests coming on soon.
But we're doing the AFC North talk too. Is that coming up?
Yeah. I just wanted to wait on that one just so we could find some bumgles. But since we are bringing it up, it'll be the Browns, the Dirty Birds, or the Rat Birds, whatever you want to call them, the Bumgles and the Squealers, as we talk about the AFC table talk going into free agency and seeing how the combine is actually tomorrow, I think.
You get 2 per team, right?
Yeah. So before we end up talking your ear off some more, man, thank you for coming and watching us at our very first XFL talk.
So does that justify everything that you do?
Excuse me, let me tell you something. What do you think they were doing it for? Because they were trying to save us from poverty? No, they did it because they needed us. It's honor and family and loyalty. And some of us wanted a piece of the action. Now, we weren't educated like the Americans, but we had the balls to take what we wanted.